everybody, and welcome to the Pick Army Wild Card Weekend Preview Show. I'm John, that's Erik. Let's dive in and see what we've got going on this weekend. Indianapolis at Buffalo, -6.5.
John, in recent memory, I can't think of a team that has come into the playoffs as red hot as the Buffalo Bills are right now. 31.3 points per game is what they averaged in 2020. That was good for second best in the NFL, but in the last 3 weeks, they are averaging over 47 points. This offense is humming, and on the 2020 season to boot, the Bills were first in third down offense. They are hard to get off the field. So enter Indy here, the 7th seed, so would not have qualified for the playoffs last year. They had trouble with Jacksonville last week. In fact, Jacksonville, the worst team in the NFL by record. The Indy was their only win of the season. So the Colts come in here. They are a little overmatched. It is a big number, -6.5. But considering how well the Bills have been playing, I'm comfortable laying it. My pick for this game, Buffalo Bills -6.5, hosting the Indianapolis Colts.
I totally agree with you. You've got some serious weapons on that offensive side of the ball. Josh Allen's having MVP-like season. Unfortunately, it's probably going to go to Aaron Rodgers, but he would be a candidate I would be putting up there to vote for. Their new acquisition of Stephon Diggs led the league in receiving yards this year. Great target to have out on the field. The defense is, defense I think ranked 14th in the league here. So not a stout defense, but a good enough defense that I think they can get it done. And on the other side of the ball there, you got with the Colts, I just don't think they have a good enough offense to be able to move the ball against this team. And if you've got a quarterback that's throwing 4 and 5 touchdowns a game, spreading it out to 4 or 5 different receivers, you're going to have to bring it. And I don't think the Colts have enough to be able to get this done. Any concerns with this game, man?
Certainly, there are some concerns here. This is actually more of a lean than a like for me. Early in the week, when the line first came out, I loved this play, but there are 3 things that give me cause for concern. Number one, the Colts do have the better defense here. In fact, the Colts are second best in yards per rushing attempt. So it's really hard to run the ball on Indy this year, which means it's going to be in Josh Allen's hands. Now, those are worthy hands, as you just said, an MVP caliber season, but this still is a young quarterback who is not overly experienced in the playoffs. Does that factor in? Number 2, Indianapolis has a great offensive line. And in the cold in January, those picks that aren't sexy in April, centers and guards and things of that nature, they really start to pay dividends once January comes around. And then finally, and this is the biggest one, everybody and their mother loves Buffalo this year. In fact, almost every professional podcast that I listen to, guys that make a living covering this or actually betting, all of even them are on the Bills here. I have yet to speak to anybody who's in favor of the Colts, and yet the line hasn't moved. It opened at 6.5. It's still at 6.5. I saw a few 7s out there very briefly. But in short, the big syndicates, the big bettors, once the line moves to 7, you've got a lot of folks immediately gobbling that number up. Again, the key numbers 3, 7, and 10, and we'll come back to 10 in the Bears game a little bit later in the show here. But the bottom line is that there are some real concerns as far as too many people liking the Bills. Sometimes you have to go against the wisdom of the crowd when the crowd is speaking too harshly and not giving the other side its due. So that's a little bit of a concern here. That being said, sticking with the Bills and totally agree with you.
Rams at the Seahawks, -3.5. Let's take a look at this one, man.
Yeah, I'm going to take the points with the Rams here. First in opponent yards per play, first in opponent points per game, allowing only 18.5 points per game over the season and just 16.7 points over the last 3 games. This Rams defense is legit. They are, now that the Dolphins are out, the best defense remaining. I would listen to arguments for Tampa Bay. Bottom line is this Rams team is tough. They are hard to score on. Seahawks 27th in third down defense, meaning I know Jared Goff might be out, but this is a defense that doesn't get opponents off the field, and Russell Wilson can't score if he isn't on the field. Jared Goff may play, he may not, but you know what? I like the athleticism that John Wolford showed last week. This guy, I'm not saying he's an upgrade from Goff. He is certainly a downgrade without a doubt, but Goff really hasn't looked that great over the last few weeks. There's something wrong with Russell Wilson on top of that. So let's fade as long as we're getting over the field goal. My pick, the Rams, plus 3.5 at Seattle.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Rams defense is definitely a stout defense. And I know they split the season series at 1-1. 20-9 was the last one where Seattle took that victory from them. But the biggest thing is, best athlete in the league, we've talked about this multiple times, is Russell Wilson, and they've kept him at bay. Not having over 250 yards passing in either of the games that they've played in, they've kept him contained. They haven't let him run all over the field. I look for this to be a definite cover for the Rams. 3.5. I like those points. They have a high-powered offense. They have so many weapons on that side of the ball. Look for this to be a Rams cover for sure. Any concerns with this at all, man?
Yeah, just a couple. Number one, the line opened +5, so you're not getting an advantageous number. 5, obviously, a lot more attractive than +3.5. I think you need to get over the field goal, though. At +3, this one turns into a stay away. Actually, might even at 2.5 goes over to Seattle. I think this is a field goal game. It's going to be low scoring. The over-under, I believe, is only 42 or maybe even 41. So the bookies are predicting that this is going to be a low scoring game, meaning points are at a premium. Make sure you're getting that over 3.5. Again, would have been nice to have it 5. And then secondly, 2 words, Russell Wilson. The guy is the only one in the Royal 3, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson, who's playing this week. And the reason is the other 2 have a bye. So Wilson is truly remarkable. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer already. And guys that play the way he does, they win playoff games, even playoff games that they shouldn't necessarily win. So that's the wild card here. Glad we're in agreement, though. And again, Rams plus 3.5.
Tampa Bay at Washington +8. Let's take a look at this one and dive in and see what we got, man.
John, I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian in this one because I like the number. I know a lot of people really like Tampa Bay, and for good reason. I could see that. But the line has moved in my favor. It opened +7.5. It's now +8. And as I'll say at the end of this here real quick, if you do agree with me and like Washington at home getting those points, then you should wait until minutes before kickoff to make your bet, and I'll explain that in a second. That being said, Washington, second in opponent yards per play. Their biggest strength, their front 7 on defense, and really their front 4, correlates to the biggest weakness of Tampa Bay, which is their offensive line. If Brady isn't comfortable, then he struggles. And also remember this too, Brady is a 500 quarterback on the road in the playoffs. He's only 4-4 because he played for the Patriots. That meant that he got the Jets twice, the Bills twice, and the Dolphins twice over the last 20 years. That was typically anywhere from 4 to 6 wins, gimme wins in some instances per year. He didn't have that, so now he's got to go on the road wild card weekend. This actually, in an interesting twist, is the first time that Tom Brady in his career will be playing on the road wild card weekend. So I do think that factors in. An upset, I'm not sure about that, but this is too many points to give a team with a big edge at head coach. Bruce Arians, believe you me, if he loses this game, he is out in Tampa Bay. And Ron Rivera, I think he has these guys motivated. I do worry, as I'll get into in a minute, about Washington's ability to score, but I think this could turn into a really ugly game. And here's the biggest thing. If you agree with me and are going to take the points with Washington, wait until just before kickoff on Saturday night. Folks will have at that point gone through 6.5 hours of watching football. Bettors will be anywhere from 2 to 10 beers deep. And for those who are chasing, those who didn't have success in the first 2 games, they're going to double down on Brady. So look for this line to climb to at least 9.5. It may even get to the magic 10, at which case jump all over it. I believe in this defense, and I really like an edge at head coach. Give me the Washington football team +8 at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I actually disagree with you on this one. It's hard to go against their Sir Tom Brady. That pains me as a Giants fan to say that, but Tom Brady, 43-year-old quarterback, only 43-year-old quarterback to do what he's done this season. 40 touchdowns on the year, third in overall passing yards on the year. It's amazing when you see the amount of talent you have under center in NFL right now, and you're talking about a 43-year-old quarterback doing that. He's poised to prove that he can still do this. And I know Ron Rivera, is a great coach, and I know that defense is tough in Washington, but definitely think Tom Brady covers this game with his team.
All good points, John, and I'll actually help your cause here because this for me is more of a lean. Tampa Bay has averaged over 40 points over their last 3 games. Now, again, that was against the Falcons twice and the doormat Detroit Lions. So let's take that with a boulder of salt. But the other thing, and this is the big one, Tampa's defense is number 1 in the NFL in yards per rush. They are really hard to run the ball on. So for Washington to come out and not be able to establish a run early, that's a real possibility here. And if that happens, then I see where you're coming from, is saying, yeah, I think that the ceiling for the Washington football team, I keep wanting to call them by their former name, the ceiling for the points that Washington's going to score is going to be 10 to 17 points. I get that. But again, what I would come back with, all solid points, but what I would come back with is, if Brady gets harassed, then things can get difficult, and they can get difficult quickly. This team has shown a lack of ability to adjust under pressure. I think Bruce Arians is a bottom 10 coach in the NFL, and I think Ron Rivera is going to play inspired. Again, not one of my favorite picks of the week, but I got to stay disciplined and stick to my numbers. I got to take the points.
Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in, and good luck on Super Wildcard Saturday.